So you've decided to try out the sponge filter. Great. In this video we'll discuss some of the functions and benefits, and later I'll show you exactly how to set one up step by step, including how you should modify your sponge filter. Ready? Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to KaveMan Aquatics. I'm Kev, and in this week's video we're talking sponge filters. I'm going to put links in all the parts that we talk about in the description below, so make sure you hit that like button in case you want to reference back to this video and you can find it very easily. Also, if you haven't already and you're new here, please subscribe so you don't miss any new content. So congratulations on discovering the sponge filter. Most fish keepers use sponge filters for a wide variety of reasons. One reason is that they're cheap and easy to maintain. So it's very easy to complement the rest of your filtration in your tank with a sponge filter. More filtration never hurt anyone. Some use it as a standalone filter for smaller tanks like quarantines, fry tanks, or grow-out tanks. Others use it as a seeding filter, meaning once your sponge filter is seeded with beneficial bacteria, you can use this filter in any other tank to accelerate the nitrification process. This is very helpful when you have multiple tanks. So the two most important parts of filtration are mechanical and biological, and your sponge filter covers both of those. Let's talk about its operation. A sponge filter works by connecting an air line to it, forcing air down the center of your sponge filter. This air then has to escape back through the uplift tube. While the air is escaping, it's sucking water into it, removing the particles from your water column. That is the mechanical filtration that the sponge provides. Also, the sponge provides all this additional surface area for beneficial bacteria to grow on, which is the biological filtration part of it. And it gets it all done with nothing but an air pump and an air tube attached to it. Pretty cool, right? So let's go over exactly how to set up and modify your sponge filter, which you should do. So these are all the parts that you're gonna need. I'll have links in the description to all of these. You have your sponge filter, obviously. Then you need air tubing. You also need a check valve. Your air stone. And finally, a good pair of scissors. First thing we're going to do is take apart your sponge filter. Remove your uplift tube. Then remove the cap off the top of your sponge filter. Then remove the sponge. You now have two separate columns attached to each other. If you take a look inside the column, you'll see there's a centerpiece and some spokes as well that we're going to remove. Here are the spokes in the center of your column. We're going to use the scissor to cut these spokes out to give access for the air stone to enter. Both columns have these spokes. And here's your sponge filter's weighted base to help keep it at the bottom of your aquarium. So we're going to grab our scissors and start cutting these spokes out of the center of the column. They're plastic pieces and shouldn't require much force to cut them out. You can use the tip of your scissors on each one. They should come out pretty easily. Once you cut all the spokes out, this center piece will be free. Do not throw away this center piece. We're going to use it later on in this process. This is how your column should look now that you've cut the spokes and the center piece out of it. You repeat this process with the second column as well. Next, you're gonna get your air tubing out and just take a rough measurement of the size of your sponge filter and cut the piece off. We're going to grab our air stone and connect it to one side of the air tubing. Now most people, along with myself, are going to try to put the two columns together and try to install the air stone through the top and the bottom. But you'll notice that it won't go in because the size of the air stone and the tips of the spokes don't allow enough access for the air stone to get in. But I'm going to show you a better way of doing it. You want to separate your columns and just put the air stone through the top of one column. That way it sits snug on the bottom. Then take your second column and just slide it over the tube and connect it to the bottom column. Now your air stone is secure in that bottom column. Won't fall out if you jiggle it, won't come out if you pull it. Pretty secure. Now grab your base and connect your two columns to the base. Slide your sponge back on so that we can cut the tubing to a more preferable measurement. Again, I'm just showing here that your air stone is properly secured and it won't get disconnected. Now when you cut the tubing, you want to be flush with the top of the sponge, but give yourself another 1/4 of an inch just for some breathing room so your fingertips can grab onto it. This is the perfect length. Again, most people like myself are going to try to put the cap onto this tube, and you will find out that the tube does not connect to this cap. This is where you're going to use that centerpiece that we cut out earlier. Grab the centerpiece and cut about 1/2 inch off the tip. Be careful not to cut yourself. This small piece is going to be used as an adapter to connect to the cap on one end, and then the tube connects on the other end. Remove your adapter from the cap, use your scissors if you have to, and then remove the sponge off of your two columns and take out your tube and your air stone. Now you have more access to get this tip onto the other end of the tube. I won't sugarcoat it, this part is going to be a little tough. Getting that little tiny adapter into that tube is going to be tough. But take your time, don't get frustrated. I won't bore you with how long it took me to do it. I'll show you the ending results. This is what it looks like when you got it done. Place your air filter and tube back into the bottom column, and then slide the top column over the tubing. Put your sponge back over the columns, and now you can easily connect the tubing with the adapter into the cap. Now you want to grab your excess tubing and first put it through your uplift tube. Then connect your tubing to the top of your sponge filter. Then slide down your uplift tube and connect it to your sponge filter. And there you have it, guys, a modified sponge filter ready to go in your aquarium. Don't forget to install this check valve before going into your aquarium. This check valve can go at the end of your tubing right before your air pump, but I would suggest that you connect this check valve right as your tubing exits your tank. That way, if you ever lose power and any water backfills through your air tubing, the check valve will stop it right as it leaves your tank. When installing your sponge filter, make sure you give it a couple of squeezes to get the air out of it so that it sinks to the bottom of your tank. Here's what your sponge filter looks and sounds like without the modification. Notice the large bubbles producing a loud bubbling sound at the top of your tank. And here it is with the modification. These smaller bubbles help in reducing that loud bubbling sound. If you like that, I have more helpful tips on your aquarium. So first, hit the subscribe circle right here, and then watch one of those videos. See you on the next one.